Marcus Chen woke up every morning at 5:30. He did this for 15 years. His alarm clock never had to ring because his body knew when to wake up. Marcus was a man who lived by rules and discipline. He believed that hard work and practice made a person perfect. The first thing Marcus did every morning was look at himself in the bathroom mirror. He was 28 years old and had short black hair that never looked messy. His face was serious most of the time. People said he looked angry even when he was not angry. Marcus did not care what people thought about his face. He cared about being the best martial artist in Seattle. After looking in the mirror, Marcus would put on his white training clothes. These clothes were special. They showed that he was a black belt in Taekwondo. Not just any black belt, but a third-degree black belt. This meant he was better than most people who practiced martial arts. The black belt around his waist was worn and old. Marcus was proud of how old it looked because it showed how long he had been training. Marcus lived in a small apartment above his martial arts school. The school was called Chen's Martial Arts Academy. The name was painted in big red letters on the front window. Marcus owned this school. He was the teacher, the boss, and the best fighter all at the same time. This made him feel very important. Every morning, Marcus would walk down the stairs from his apartment to his school. The wooden floors were always clean and shiny. The walls had pictures of famous martial artists and certificates that showed Marcus had won many competitions. In the center of the room, there were thick mats where students practiced. Everything in the school was organized and perfect, just like Marcus wanted his life to be. At 6 in the morning, Marcus would start his training. He would practice his kicks, punches, and blocks for 2 hours. He did the same moves every day. Front kick, side kick, roundhouse kick. Each kick was fast and strong. When Marcus kicked the heavy bag, it would swing back and hit the wall with a loud sound. Sometimes the people in the building next to his school would complain about the noise. Marcus did not care. He believed that people who complained about hard work were weak. Marcus had been practicing Taekwondo since he was 13 years old. His parents brought him to a martial arts school because other kids at his regular school were making fun of him. Marcus was small and quiet back then. The other kids called him names and sometimes pushed him around. His parents thought martial arts would help him become stronger and more confident. They were right, but maybe too right. Marcus became very strong and very confident. Maybe he became too confident. After 5 years of training, Marcus was not the small, quiet boy anymore. He was fast, strong, and he knew how to fight. The kids who used to make fun of him were now afraid of him. This felt good to Marcus. It felt so good that he never wanted to feel weak again. When Marcus turned 18, he started competing in tournaments. A tournament is like a big contest where martial artists fight each other to see who is the best. Marcus won his first tournament easily. He won his second tournament too. In fact, Marcus won almost every tournament he entered for 10 years. People in Seattle knew his name. They knew he was someone you did not want to fight. All these wins made Marcus believe something that was not completely true. He believed he was better than everyone else. He believed that his style of martial arts, Taekwondo, was the best style in the world. He believed that any person who practiced a different style was not as good as him. Marcus had students who came to his school to learn from him. These students looked up to him like he was a hero. They listened to every word he said. They tried to copy the way he moved and the way he talked. When Marcus showed them a technique, they would practice it over and over until they got it right. This attention made Marcus feel even more important. Some of his students were teenagers who reminded Marcus of himself when he was young. They were shy and not very confident. Marcus would tell them that martial arts would make them strong and fearless. He would say that if they trained hard enough, no one would ever be able to hurt them or make them feel small. The students believed him because Marcus seemed so sure of himself. But Marcus taught his students more than just fighting techniques. Without knowing it, he also taught them to think they were better than people who did not practice martial arts. He taught them that winning was the most important thing. He taught them that being the strongest meant being the best person. Marcus had a daily routine that never changed. After his morning training, he would eat the same breakfast, 2 eggs, 1 piece of toast, and black coffee. Then he would open his school for the day. Students would come in the afternoon and evening for classes. Marcus would teach them kicks, punches, and forms. A form is like a dance that shows different fighting moves put together. During classes, Marcus was strict but fair. He did not let students talk when they should be listening. He did not let them be lazy. If a student did not try their best, Marcus would make them do extra push-ups or run around the school. The students respected him because he was tough, but they also feared him a little bit. Marcus did not have many friends outside of his martial arts world. He did not have time for people who did not understand the importance of training and discipline. He thought that most people were soft and weak. He thought they spent too much time watching television or playing games instead of working hard to improve themselves. On weekends, Marcus would sometimes go to other martial arts schools to watch their classes. He did this not to learn from them, but to see how much better his school was than theirs. He would watch students practicing kung fu, karate, or boxing, and he would think to himself that their techniques were not as good as taekwondo. He would notice when their kicks were not as high as his kicks, or when their movements were not as fast as his movements. This way of thinking made Marcus feel good about himself, but it also made him blind to some important things. He could not see that other martial arts had valuable techniques that he could learn. He could not see that being humble and respectful was just as important as being strong and fast. Most importantly, he could not see that his pride was slowly becoming his biggest weakness. Marcus thought he knew everything there was to know about fighting and martial arts. He thought he was ready for any challenge that might come his way. He had no idea that very soon, he would face a situation that would change his life forever. He had no idea that all his training and all his confidence would not be enough to prepare him for what was about to happen. The morning that would change everything started just like every other morning. Marcus woke up at 5:30, looked at himself in the mirror, put on his white training clothes, and walked down to his school. He had no way of knowing that by the end of that day, everything he believed about himself and about martial arts would be completely different. The letter came on a Wednesday morning in early September. Marcus was drinking his black coffee when he heard someone slide an envelope under his door. The envelope was thick and white, with fancy writing on the front. It was addressed to Mr. Marcus Chen, Master Instructor, Chen's Martial Arts Academy. Marcus opened the envelope and found an invitation inside. The invitation was printed on expensive paper with gold edges. It was from the Seattle International Cultural Festival Committee. They were inviting Marcus to give a martial arts demonstration at their biggest event of the year. The festival would have people from many different countries showing their culture, food, music, and traditions. Marcus read the invitation 3 times. He had heard about this festival before, but he had never been invited to participate. The invitation said they wanted him to show traditional taekwondo forms and maybe do some board breaking. Board breaking is when a martial artist uses their hands or feet to break wooden boards. It shows how strong and accurate their techniques are. The festival would last for 3 days and would be held at the Seattle Center near the Space Needle. Thousands of people would come to see the different cultural displays. There would be food from around the world, traditional dances, music performances, and arts and crafts demonstrations. Marcus would have his own space where he could show people what real martial arts looked like. Marcus was excited about this opportunity. He saw it as a chance to show everyone in Seattle how good he was. He imagined crowds of people watching him with amazement as he performed his perfect kicks and broke boards with his bare hands. He thought about all the new students who might join his school after seeing his demonstration. For the next 2 weeks, Marcus prepared for the festival like he was getting ready for the most important tournament of his life. He practiced his forms over and over until every movement was perfect. He bought new boards to break and practiced breaking them in different ways. He wanted his demonstration to be so impressive that people would talk about it for months. Marcus also bought new clothes for the demonstration. He got a pure white uniform that was perfectly clean and pressed. He polished his black belt until it looked almost new. He even bought new shoes that were completely white and had never been worn outside. The night before the festival, Marcus could not sleep. He kept thinking about his demonstration and imagining all the people who would be watching him. He got up several times to practice his forms in his apartment. He wanted to make sure he remembered every single move perfectly. The first day of the festival was a Friday. Marcus arrived early in the morning to set up his display area. The festival organizers had given him a space that was about 20 feet by 20 feet. They had put up a banner with his name and the name of his school. There were chairs around the edge where people could sit and watch his demonstration. As Marcus set up his equipment, he looked around at the other displays. There were people from many different countries setting up their own areas. He saw a group of Japanese people preparing to show tea ceremony. There were Mexican dancers practicing their steps. He saw Indian women in beautiful, colorful clothes arranging spices and fabrics. Marcus felt proud that his martial arts demonstration would be part of this international event. He thought his display would be more exciting than all the others because it would show real action and power, not just slow ceremonies or dancing. The festival officially opened at 10 in the morning. By 11, Marcus had gathered his first audience. About 20 people sat in the chairs around his area to watch his first demonstration of the day. Marcus began by explaining what Taekwondo was and where it came from. He told them about the discipline and training required to become a black belt. Then Marcus began his demonstration. He performed 3 different forms, each one showing different types of kicks, punches, and blocks. The audience watched quietly as Marcus moved through the complex patterns. His kicks were high and fast. His movements were sharp and precise. When he finished each form, the audience clapped politely. Next, Marcus showed them board breaking. He broke 3 boards with a front kick, 2 boards with a side kick, and 1 thick board with his hand. Each time a board broke with a loud crack, some people in the audience jumped in surprise. Then they clapped more enthusiastically. Marcus felt good about his first demonstration. The audience seemed impressed, and several people asked him questions about his school and about learning Taekwondo. A few people took the business cards he had brought with him. As the day went on, Marcus did his demonstration every hour. Each time he had a different audience. Some groups were bigger than others, but everyone seemed interested in what he was showing them. Marcus began to feel like this festival was going to be very good for his business. It was during his afternoon demonstration that Marcus first noticed them. There was a group of men standing at the back of his audience area. They were all wearing matching dark blue uniforms with gold buttons. The uniforms looked official and important. The men were all tall and strong-looking. They stood very straight and watched Marcus's demonstration with serious expressions. Marcus wondered who these men were, but he did not let their presence distract him from his demonstration. He performed his forms just as perfectly as he had been doing all day. He broke his boards with loud cracks that made some people in the audience gasp. When he finished, everyone clapped, including the men in uniforms. After the audience left, one of the uniformed men approached Marcus. He was tall and had short black hair. His face was calm and respectful. He walked with the confident steps of someone who was used to being in control. "Excuse me," the man said politely. "My name is Captain Somchai Ratanakosin. I am with the Royal Thai Guard. We are here providing security for Princess Sirikanya, who is visiting your festival as a guest of honor." Marcus was surprised. He had not known that there was a real princess at the festival. He also had never heard of the Royal Thai Guard before. But the man's uniform and the way he carried himself made it clear that he was someone important. "I watched your demonstration," Captain Somchai continued. "Your techniques are very impressive, very powerful and precise. I practice martial arts myself, so I can appreciate the skill and training that goes into what you do." Marcus felt proud that this important person had noticed his skills. "Thank you," Marcus said. "What kind of martial arts do you practice?" "Muay Thai," Captain Somchai replied. "It is the traditional fighting art of Thailand. We learn it as part of our training to protect the royal family." Marcus had heard of Muay Thai before, but he did not know much about it. He knew it was different from Taekwondo. Where Taekwondo focused on high kicks and fast movements, he had heard that Muay Thai used more punches, elbows, and knee strikes. "I would be interested to learn more about your art," Captain Somchai said. "Perhaps we could discuss our different training methods sometime." Marcus was about to respond when he heard voices behind him. A group of festival visitors had stopped to listen to their conversation. One of them, a middle-aged man with a loud voice, spoke up. "Oh, you should see this guy fight someone who does real fighting," the man said, pointing at Marcus. "This flashy American karate stuff looks pretty, but I bet it would not work against someone who fights for real." Marcus felt his face getting hot with anger. This stranger was insulting his martial art and suggesting that it was not effective. Marcus had spent his whole adult life proving that Taekwondo was a superior fighting system. "Taekwondo is not karate," Marcus said firmly, "and it is definitely effective in real fighting situations." Sure, the loud man said with a smirk. "But could it work against real traditional fighting like what this soldier guy does? That Thai boxing stuff is supposed to be pretty tough." More people were stopping to listen now. Marcus could feel their eyes on him. He could sense that some of them were doubting his abilities. This was exactly the kind of situation that made Marcus angry. He had worked too hard and achieved too much to let some stranger question his skills in public. Captain Somchai looked uncomfortable with the direction the conversation was taking. "Please," he said politely. "I did not mean to suggest that any fighting style was better than another. All martial arts have their own value and beauty, but the damage was done." Marcus felt like his reputation was being challenged in front of all these people. He felt like he had to prove that Taekwondo was not just for show, that it was a real and effective fighting art. "Maybe we could demonstrate the differences between our styles," Marcus said, looking directly at Captain Somchai. "Just a friendly sparring match to show people how different martial arts work." The crowd that had gathered around them grew larger. People sensed that something interesting was about to happen. Captain Somchai looked around at all the faces watching them and realized that it would be difficult to refuse without seeming disrespectful or cowardly. Captain Somchai looked around at the growing crowd of people. More and more festival visitors were stopping to see what was happening. Some were holding their phones up, ready to record whatever was about to take place. The captain's training told him that this was not a good situation, but his sense of honor made it difficult to walk away. "I suppose a light demonstration would be educational," Captain Somchai said carefully, "but it should be very controlled. Just to show the different techniques, not a real fight." Marcus nodded, but inside his heart was beating fast with excitement. This was his chance to show everyone that Taekwondo was the superior martial art. He had been training for 15 years for moments like this. All those hours of practice, all those tournaments he had won, all that discipline and hard work. This was why he had done it all. The crowd grew bigger as word spread through the festival that there was going to be some kind of martial arts demonstration. People left other displays to come watch. Soon there were more than 100 people gathered around Marcus's area. Some were sitting in the chairs, but most were standing in a large circle around the space where the two men would demonstrate. Marcus began to stretch and warm up. He did high kicks in the air to loosen his legs. He rolled his shoulders and twisted his back. Every movement was smooth and controlled. The crowd watched him with interest. They could see that he was serious about this demonstration and that he knew what he was doing. Captain Somchai also prepared, but his warm-up was different from Marcus's. Instead of high kicks, he practiced shorter, more compact movements. He moved his arms in flowing circles and shifted his weight from one foot to the other. His preparation looked less flashy than Marcus's, but there was something about the way he moved that suggested he was very dangerous. One of the festival organizers, a woman in a red jacket, pushed through the crowd. She looked worried about what was happening in her festival. "Excuse me," she said to both men. "Is everything okay here? We did not plan for any kind of fighting demonstration. It's just a friendly showing of techniques," Marcus assured her. "Nothing dangerous. Just educational." The woman looked uncertain, but the crowd was so excited and interested that she decided to let it continue. She stepped back, but stayed close enough to stop things if they got out of hand. Marcus and Captain Somchai faced each other in the center of the space. The crowd became quiet, sensing that something important was about to happen. Both men bowed to each other, showing respect in the traditional martial arts way. "Light contact only," Captain Somchai reminded Marcus. "We are here to educate, not to hurt each other." Of course, Marcus agreed, but his competitive spirit was already taking over. He wanted to win this demonstration. He wanted to prove that his years of training made him better than this soldier, even if the soldier did guard royalty. The two men began to circle each other slowly. Marcus kept his hands up high, in the traditional Taekwondo fighting stance. His feet moved lightly on the ground, ready to launch into one of his fast kicks. Captain Somchai held his hands differently, with his elbows closer to his body. His stance was more square, ready to attack or defend from multiple angles. Marcus threw the first technique, a fast front kick aimed at Captain Somchai's chest. The captain moved smoothly to the side and let the kick pass by him. The crowd made an appreciative sound at the speed and height of Marcus's kick. Captain Somchai responded with a quick jab toward Marcus's face, pulling it short so it did not actually make contact. Marcus leaned back to avoid it, then immediately countered with a roundhouse kick toward the captain's ribs. Again, Captain Somchai moved out of the way with fluid grace. For the first few minutes, both men showed their skills without really trying to hit each other. Marcus demonstrated the long-range kicking techniques that Taekwondo was famous for. His legs moved like whips, fast and precise. Captain Somchai showed the closer-range techniques of Muay Thai, using his hands, elbows, and knees in combinations that flowed together naturally. The crowd was impressed by both fighters. They could see that these were not just regular people pretending to know martial arts. These were real experts who had spent years learning their skills. People in the crowd were taking pictures and videos. Some were calling their friends to come watch. As the demonstration continued, Marcus began to feel frustrated. Captain Somchai was avoiding all of his techniques easily. The captain made it look effortless, like Marcus's kicks were moving in slow motion. Marcus knew his techniques were fast and powerful, but somehow this soldier was always one step ahead of him. Marcus decided to increase the intensity a little bit. Instead of just showing his techniques, he began to really try to touch his opponent. He threw his kicks with more speed and power. He aimed them more precisely, trying to actually make light contact with Captain Somchai's body. Captain Somchai noticed the change in intensity, but he remained calm. His training as a royal guard had taught him to stay cool under pressure. He continued to avoid Marcus's attacks while occasionally showing his own techniques. When he threw a punch or an elbow strike, he pulled it short so it did not connect, just as they had agreed. But Marcus was getting more and more frustrated. In all his years of competition, he had always been faster than his opponents. He had always been able to land his techniques when he wanted to. But this soldier was different. He moved with a kind of relaxed confidence that Marcus had never encountered before. The crowd could sense that the demonstration was becoming more serious. What had started as a friendly showing of techniques was turning into something more competitive. People stopped talking and watched more closely. The tension in the air was growing. Marcus decided he needed to use one of his most impressive techniques. He backed up a few steps to give himself room. The crowd saw him preparing for something big and grew even more quiet. Marcus focused all his energy and launched himself into the air with a jumping side kick, one of the most difficult and spectacular techniques in Taekwondo. It was a perfect kick. Marcus's body flew through the air with his leg extended straight out from his hip. His foot was aimed directly at Captain Somchai's chest. It was the kind of technique that had won Marcus many tournaments. It was fast, powerful, and accurate, but something went wrong. Maybe Captain Somchai moved at the last second in a way Marcus did not expect. Maybe Marcus was trying so hard to finally land a technique that he put too much power into it. Maybe the excitement of the crowd and the pressure of the moment made Marcus less careful than he usually was. Instead of hitting Captain Somchai's chest where Marcus had aimed, the kick connected directly with the captain's face. Marcus's foot, moving with all the power of his jumping technique, struck Captain Somchai square in the nose and mouth. The sound of the impact was loud and sharp, like a wooden board breaking. But this was not a board, this was a human face. Captain Somchai's head snapped back from the force of the kick. His body stumbled backward, trying to keep balance. He crashed into a display table behind him, sending festival brochures and small decorative items flying everywhere. The crowd gasped in shock. Several people screamed. Someone shouted, "Oh my God!" In an instant, the friendly demonstration had become something terrible. Captain Somchai fell to his knees, his hands covering his face. Blood was flowing between his fingers and dripping onto his dark blue uniform. The blood looked very bright red against the blue fabric. His nose was clearly broken, and his lip was cut and swelling rapidly. Marcus stood frozen in place, his leg still extended from the kick. He could not believe what had just happened. He had thrown that same technique thousands of times in practice and competition. He had perfect control of his body and his techniques. This was not supposed to happen. The festival area became chaos. People were shouting and pushing forward to get a better look. Others were backing away, afraid of what they had just seen. Someone was calling for medical help on their phone. The woman in the red jacket who worked for the festival was pushing through the crowd, trying to get to Captain Somchai. Other members of the Thai Royal Guard appeared as if from nowhere. They had been positioned around the festival to protect the princess, but now they were surrounding their injured captain. Their faces were serious and angry. These were not men who were used to seeing their colleague attacked. Marcus finally moved from his frozen position. He took a step toward Captain Somchai, wanting to help or apologize or explain that it was an accident. But the other royal guards immediately stepped between Marcus and their captain. One of them held up his hand in a clear signal for Marcus to stay back. "It was an accident," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "I didn't mean for that to happen. I was just trying to demonstrate the technique." But his words sounded weak and inadequate compared to what had just occurred. Captain Somchai was seriously injured, bleeding heavily from his face. The crowd of festival visitors had seen an American martial artist kick a foreign soldier in the face. No explanation could change what everyone had witnessed. Marcus looked around at all the faces staring at him. Some looked shocked, some looked angry, and some looked afraid. Many people were still holding up their phones, recording everything that was happening. Marcus realized that this moment was being captured forever. The festival medical team arrived within 3 minutes, but to Marcus, those 3 minutes felt like hours. He stood watching as 2 paramedics knelt beside Captain Somchai, who was still on his knees with blood flowing from his nose and mouth. The captain had not lost consciousness, but he was clearly in serious pain. The paramedics worked quickly and professionally. One of them held a white cloth against the captain's nose to try to stop the bleeding. The other was checking his eyes with a small flashlight, looking for signs of a concussion. They spoke to each other in quiet, serious voices that Marcus could not quite hear over the noise of the crowd. The other royal guards formed a protective circle around their injured captain. They looked tense and ready for trouble. Their eyes kept moving between Captain Somchai and Marcus. Marcus could see the anger in their faces, even though they were trying to remain professional. The festival organizer in the red jacket was talking rapidly into her radio, calling for additional security, and probably explaining the situation to her supervisors. Her face was pale and worried. This was definitely not the kind of cultural exchange she had hoped for when she invited Marcus to demonstrate martial arts. Marcus wanted to do something helpful, but he did not know what. Every time he took a step closer, one of the royal guards would look at him with a warning expression. Marcus understood that they saw him as a threat now, not as a fellow martial artist. He had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. The crowd of festival visitors was growing larger instead of smaller. News of the incident was spreading throughout the festival grounds. People who had been looking at other cultural displays were coming to see what had happened. Some were taking pictures with their phones. Others were recording videos. Marcus realized that this moment was being documented by dozens of people, and those videos would probably be shared on social media within hours. A security guard from the festival approached Marcus. He was a big man wearing a yellow shirt that said "Security" on the back. His expression was serious but not unfriendly. "Sir, I need you to come with me," the security guard said firmly. "We need to get you away from this area while the medical team works." Marcus nodded and followed the security guard through the crowd. People stared at him as he walked past. Some were pointing and whispering to each other. Marcus heard fragments of conversations. "That's the guy who kicked him. Did you see how hard he hit him? I can't believe he did that to a soldier." The security guard led Marcus to a small office building at the edge of the festival grounds. Inside was a plain room with a table and several chairs. The security guard asked Marcus to sit down and wait. He said someone would be there soon to talk to him. Marcus sat alone in the room for about 20 minutes. His mind was racing, trying to understand what had just happened and what it might mean for him. He kept replaying the kick in his memory, trying to figure out where it had gone wrong. He had performed that same technique hundreds of times without any problems. Why had this time been different? The door opened and 2 men in suits entered the room. One was tall and thin with gray hair. The other was shorter and younger with a serious expression and a notebook in his hand. "Mr. Chen," the older man said, "I'm Detective Johnson with the Seattle Police Department. This is Detective Martinez. We need to ask you some questions about what happened out there." Marcus felt his stomach drop. He had not expected the police to get involved so quickly. This was starting to feel much more serious than he had realized. "We've spoken with several witnesses and reviewed some of the video footage that people took," Detective Johnson continued. "We need to hear your version of what happened." Marcus explained that it had been meant as a friendly demonstration of different martial arts styles. He told them about the conversation with Captain Somchai and how the crowd had gathered to watch. He emphasized that it was supposed to be light contact only, just showing techniques. "But something went wrong with your technique?" Detective Martinez asked, looking up from his notebook. "Yes," Marcus said. "I was trying to demonstrate a jumping side kick. I've done that kick thousands of times. but somehow it connected with his face instead of his chest where I was aiming. The detectives asked Marcus many more questions. They wanted to know about his martial arts background, his training, and his experience with sparring. They asked about his relationship with Captain Somchai and whether there had been any previous conflict between them. Marcus answered all their questions honestly. He had nothing to hide, and he hoped that being cooperative would help his situation. But as the questioning continued, he began to realize that the police were treating this as a potential assault case, not as a simple accident. "Mr. Chen," Detective Johnson said, "Captain Somchai has been taken to Harborview Medical Center. His nose is broken and he has a significant facial laceration that required stitches. The doctors are also monitoring him for a possible concussion." Marcus felt sick hearing about the extent of the captain's injuries. He had never seriously hurt someone before, not in all his years of training and competition. The worst injury he had ever caused was a bruise or a bloody nose during sparring practice. "We're going to need you to come with us to the station for further questioning," Detective Martinez said. "You're not under arrest at this time, but this is a serious incident and we need to complete our investigation." Marcus rode in the back of the police car through downtown Seattle toward the police station. He looked out the window at the normal city life going on around him. People walking on sidewalks, cars waiting at traffic lights, tourists taking pictures. Everything looked the same as it always had, but Marcus felt like his world had completely changed. At the police station, Marcus was taken to another small room with a table and chairs. This room looked more serious than the one at the festival. There was a mirror on one wall that Marcus suspected was a one-way window where other people could watch the interview. The detectives asked Marcus to go through his story again in more detail. They wanted to know exactly what he had been thinking when he decided to increase the intensity of the demonstration. They asked about his intentions when he threw the jumping side kick. "I was just trying to show the technique," Marcus insisted. "I never intended to hurt him. In all my years of training, I've always been able to control my techniques perfectly." But even as he said it, Marcus was beginning to doubt himself. He remembered feeling frustrated that Captain Somchai was avoiding all his techniques so easily. He remembered wanting to actually land a technique to prove his skills. Had he been trying harder than he admitted to himself? The questioning went on for hours. Different officers came and went. Someone brought Marcus a sandwich and a cup of coffee, but he was too nervous to eat much. Through a window in the room, he could see that it was getting dark outside. Eventually, Detective Johnson returned with some news. "Mr. Chen, we've been in contact with the Thai consulate. Captain Somchai is a member of the Royal Thai Guard, which means this incident has diplomatic implications." Marcus did not understand what diplomatic implications meant, but it sounded bad. "The Thai officials are taking this very seriously," Detective Johnson continued. "An assault on a royal guard is considered an attack on the dignity of the Thai royal family. They're requesting that we pursue full charges against you." "But it was an accident," Marcus protested. "I never meant to hurt him." "Can't you tell them that?" "Unfortunately, intent is difficult to prove," Detective Martinez said. "What we have is video evidence of you kicking a Thai royal guard in the face in front of hundreds of witnesses. The Thai government views this as a deliberate assault on one of their representatives." Marcus felt the room spinning around him. This was becoming much bigger than just an accident at a cultural festival. He was apparently involved in some kind of international incident now. "Am I going to jail?" Marcus asked. "We're releasing you tonight," Detective Johnson said, "but you need to understand that this is far from over. You'll likely be charged with assault in the second degree. You'll need to get a lawyer, and there's a possibility that the Thai government might request extradition." Marcus did not know what extradition meant, but it sounded terrifying. "Extradition means they might ask us to send you to Thailand to face charges there," Detective Martinez explained. Seeing the confused look on Marcus's face, Marcus felt like he was falling into a deep hole with no way to climb out. A few hours ago, he had been a successful martial arts instructor preparing for a simple demonstration. Now he was facing serious criminal charges and the possibility of being sent to a foreign country for trial. The detectives gave Marcus some paperwork and told him he was free to go for now, but that he should not leave the Seattle area. They also advised him to contact a lawyer as soon as possible. Marcus walked out of the police station into the night air. The streets were busy with people going to restaurants and bars, enjoying their Friday evening. Marcus felt completely disconnected from all this normal life. He called a taxi to take him home. During the taxi ride, Marcus used his phone to search for news about the incident. He found several articles already online. The headlines were terrible. American martial artist assaults Thai Royal Guard, and international incident at Seattle Festival, and Marcus did not sleep that night. He sat in his living room chair, staring out the window at the street below. Every few minutes, a car would drive by with its headlights cutting through the darkness. Marcus watched those lights and wondered if his life would ever be normal again. When the sun came up on Saturday morning, Marcus tried to follow his usual routine. He put on his training clothes and went downstairs to his school. But when he tried to practice his forms, he could not concentrate. Every time he threw a kick, he thought about Captain Somchai's face and the blood on his uniform. Marcus had scheduled classes for Saturday morning, but none of his students showed up. He sat in his empty school and realized that probably everyone in Seattle had seen the videos by now. Parents would not want to send their children to learn from someone who had attacked a foreign soldier. Around noon, Marcus's lawyer called. Her name was Sarah Kim, and Marcus had used her help before with business contracts for his school. But this situation was much more serious than anything they had dealt with before. "Marcus, I've been looking into your case," Sarah said over the phone. "This is complicated because it involves international law. The Thai government has officially requested that you be charged with assault, and they're also asking the U.S. State Department to consider extradition." Marcus felt his stomach twist with fear. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means they want you sent to Thailand to face trial there," Sarah explained. "Assault on a royal guard is considered a very serious crime in Thailand. It's seen as an attack on the monarchy itself." Marcus had never thought about monarchies or royal families before. In America, such things seemed like ancient history or fairy tales. But now he was learning that in some parts of the world, these traditions were still very real and very important. "Can they really make me go to Thailand?" Marcus asked. "The U.S. has an extradition treaty with Thailand," Sarah said. "But extradition is usually reserved for very serious crimes. We'll fight it, of course. But Marcus, you need to understand that this is not just about the legal system anymore. This has become a diplomatic issue between two countries." After the phone call, Marcus decided he needed to learn more about Thailand and its culture. If he was going to face charges related to their royal family, he should at least understand what he had done wrong from their perspective. Marcus spent hours on his computer reading about Thailand. He learned that Thailand was one of the few countries in the world that had never been colonized by European powers. The Thai people were very proud of their independence and their royal traditions. The king and royal family were deeply respected and protected by strict laws. Marcus read that in Thailand, it was illegal to insult the royal family in any way. People could go to prison just for saying something disrespectful about the king or queen. The royal guard that protected the royal family were considered some of the most honored people in the country. As Marcus read more, he began to understand that what he saw as a simple accident was viewed very differently by Thai culture. Captain Somchai was not just any soldier. He was a guardian of their most sacred institution. When Marcus kicked him in the face, it was seen as an attack on everything the Thai people held most dear. This realization made Marcus feel even worse about what had happened. He had been so focused on his own martial arts skills and his own reputation that he had never considered the cultural significance of his actions. On Sunday, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. There was a knock on the door of his apartment, and when he opened it, he found an elderly Thai man standing in the hallway. The man was small and thin, with gray hair and kind eyes. He was wearing a simple dark suit. "Mr. Chen," the man said with a slight accent, "my name is Dr. Prasert Sukhumvit. I am the cultural attaché at the Thai consulate in Seattle. May I speak with you?" Marcus invited Dr. Sukhumvit into his apartment. They sat at Marcus's small kitchen table, and the Thai official declined Marcus's offer of coffee or water. "I have come to help you understand the situation you are in," Dr. Sukhumvit said gently. "I do not think you meant to cause offense to our country or our royal family, but I also do not think you understand how serious this incident is from our cultural perspective." Marcus listened carefully as Dr. Sukhumvit explained Thai culture and the importance of the royal family. The doctor spoke slowly and patiently, like a teacher helping a student understand a difficult lesson. "In your country," Dr. Sukhumvit said, You have freedom to criticize your leaders. You can say bad things about your president or your government. This is part of your culture. But in Thailand, our relationship with our royal family is different. They represent our national identity and our spiritual values. Marcus began to see that his actions had been interpreted as much more than just a martial arts accident. In Thai culture, he had committed an act that was seen as deeply disrespectful to their entire nation. "What can I do to fix this?" Marcus asked. Dr. Sukhumvit was quiet for a long moment. "The Thai government is very angry," he said finally. "They believe you attacked Captain Somchai deliberately, as an act of disrespect toward Thailand. Many Thai people have seen the videos on the internet, and they are calling for you to be punished severely." Marcus felt hopeless. How could he prove that it had been an accident when the videos looked so deliberate? However, Dr. Sukhumvit continued, "Captain Somchai himself has asked to speak with you. He is still in the hospital, but his injuries are healing. He has requested a private meeting." This surprised Marcus. Why would the man he had injured want to talk to him? "Captain Somchai is a wise man," Dr. Sukhumvit explained. "He understands that this incident could make relations between our countries worse. He also understands martial arts and knows that accidents can happen during training and demonstration." Dr. Sukhumvit arranged for Marcus to visit Captain Somchai at the hospital the next day. Marcus was nervous about this meeting, but he was also hopeful that he might be able to explain his side of the story to the person who had been hurt. That night, Marcus could not stop thinking about everything Dr. Sukhumvit had told him. He realized that he had lived his whole life without really thinking about other cultures and how they might be different from his own. He had assumed that everyone saw the world the same way he did. Marcus thought about all the times he had watched students from other martial arts and dismissed their techniques as inferior to Taekwondo. He thought about how he had looked down on people who did not practice martial arts. He began to see that his pride and arrogance had made him blind to many important things. On Monday morning, Marcus went to Harborview Medical Center to meet Captain Somchai. The captain was in a private room on the 4th floor. When Marcus entered the room, he was shocked by what he saw. Captain Somchai's face was covered with bandages. His nose was swollen and bruised. There were stitches on his lip and around his left eye. Despite his injuries, the captain sat up straight in his hospital bed and managed a slight smile when Marcus entered. "Mr. Chen," Captain Somchai said, his voice slightly muffled by the bandages. "Thank you for coming to see me." Marcus felt terrible seeing the damage his kick had caused. "I'm so sorry," he said immediately. "I never meant for this to happen. It was supposed to be just a light demonstration." Captain Somchai nodded slowly. "I know," he said. "I have been doing martial arts for 20 years. I understand that accidents happen, especially when people are trying to show off for a crowd." Marcus was surprised by the captain's calm and understanding tone. He had expected anger or accusations, but instead found forgiveness and wisdom. "But I also know," Captain Somchai continued, "that you were trying to prove something out there. You were not just demonstrating techniques. You were trying to show that your style was better than mine." Marcus felt his face burning with shame because he knew it was true. His pride and competitive spirit had turned what should have been a friendly cultural exchange into something dangerous. "In my country," Captain Somchai said, "we believe that true martial arts mastery comes not from defeating others but from mastering yourself. The strongest fighter is not the one who can kick the hardest, but the one who knows when not to fight at all." These words hit Marcus like a physical blow. In all his years of training, no teacher had ever explained martial arts to him this way. He had always been taught that winning was the most important thing, that being the strongest made you the best. Captain Somchai spent the next hour teaching Marcus about the true philosophy of martial arts. He explained that in Thailand, soldiers and fighters were taught to be protectors, not aggressors. Their strength was meant to defend others, not to prove their own superiority. "Your technique is very good," Captain Somchai said. "Your kicks are fast and powerful. But technique without wisdom is dangerous, as we both learned at the festival." Marcus listened carefully to every word. He realized that despite all his training and all his black belts, he had never learned the most important lessons that martial arts had to teach. When the visit was over, Captain Somchai made Marcus an offer that changed everything. "The Thai government wants to prosecute you," the captain said, "but I have influence with them. If you are willing to really learn about martial arts and about respect for other cultures, I might be able to help you." 2 weeks after the hospital meeting, Marcus found himself sitting on an airplane flying toward Bangkok, Thailand. He had never traveled outside of the United States before. Everything he owned fit into 2 suitcases in the airplane storage area above his seat. Closing his martial arts school had been one of the hardest things Marcus had ever done. He had to cancel all his students' classes and explain why he would be gone for at least 6 months. Some of his students were disappointed, but others were supportive. A few even said they hoped he would learn something important and come back as a better teacher. Marcus had also had to deal with many legal meetings and paperwork. His lawyer, Sarah Kim, had worked with the Thai consulate and the U.S. State Department to arrange this unusual agreement. Instead of being charged with assault, Marcus would go to Thailand as a cultural exchange student. If he completed the 6 months of training successfully, the charges would be dropped. The airplane flight took almost 20 hours with stops in other cities. Marcus had plenty of time to think about what he was doing. He was traveling to a country he knew almost nothing about to study with people he had never met. He was trusting Captain Somchai, a man he had injured, to help him avoid prison. When the airplane finally landed in Bangkok, Marcus was overwhelmed by everything he saw. The airport was huge and modern, but filled with signs in a language he could not read. The weather was hot and humid in a way that made his clothes stick to his skin immediately. The smells in the air were completely different from anything he had experienced in Seattle. Captain Somchai was waiting for Marcus at the airport. The captain's face was still marked by their encounter at the festival, but the worst swelling had gone down. He wore civilian clothes instead of his uniform, a simple white shirt and dark pants. "Welcome to Thailand, Mr. Chen," Captain Somchai said with a slight bow. "I hope you are ready to begin your real education." They drove through Bangkok in a taxi, and Marcus stared out the window at a city unlike anything he had ever seen. There were tall modern buildings next to ancient temples with golden roofs. The streets were crowded with cars, motorcycles, and small 3-wheeled vehicles called tuk-tuks. Everywhere Marcus looked, he saw evidence of a culture that was thousands of years old, but still very much alive. "My master's training camp is not in Bangkok," Captain Somchai explained as they drove. "It is in the countryside, about 2 hours north of the city. You will be staying there for the entire 6 months. There are no distractions, no television, no internet, just training and study." Marcus felt nervous about being so isolated from everything familiar, but he knew he had agreed to this arrangement. He had to trust that Captain Somchai and his master knew what they were doing. The taxi took them to a bus station where they caught a local bus heading north. Marcus was the only foreign person on the bus, and he noticed that some of the other passengers were staring at him curiously. He tried to smile and nod politely, but he felt very out of place. During the bus ride, Captain Somchai told Marcus more about his master. His name was Ajahn Chaiwat, and he was 73 years old. He had been teaching martial arts for more than 50 years. Many of Thailand's best fighters had trained with him at some point in their careers. Ajahn Chaiwat is not just a fighting teacher, Captain Somchai explained. He is what we call a spiritual teacher as well. He will teach you about Buddhism, about meditation, about how to live with honor and respect. Marcus had never studied religion or meditation before. His martial arts training had always focused on physical techniques and competitive fighting. But he was beginning to understand that in Thailand, martial arts were connected to much deeper philosophical ideas. The bus finally stopped in a small town that looked very different from Bangkok. The buildings were smaller and older. There were rice fields stretching out in all directions. Marcus could see mountains in the distance covered with green jungle. From the bus station, Captain Somchai led Marcus down a dirt road that wound through the rice fields. They walked for about 30 minutes, carrying Marcus's suitcases. The sun was setting, and Marcus could hear birds and insects making sounds he had never heard before. Finally, they reached a cluster of simple wooden buildings surrounded by a wooden fence. There was a sign in Thai writing that Marcus could not read, but Captain Somchai translated it for him. Chaiwat Martial Arts and Meditation Center. An old man came out of one of the buildings to greet them. He was small and thin, with completely white hair and deeply tanned skin. Despite his age, he moved with the smooth grace of someone who had spent decades training his body. This was Ajahn Chaiwat. The master looked at Marcus for a long moment without speaking. His eyes were sharp and intelligent, and Marcus felt like the old man was seeing right through him. Finally, Ajarn Chaiwat spoke in English with a heavy accent. "So you are the American who thinks he is a great fighter," the master said. It was not a question, and his tone was neither friendly nor unfriendly. It was simply a statement of fact. Marcus did not know how to respond, so he bowed the way he had seen Captain Somchai bow. Ajarn Chaiwat watched his bow and shook his head slightly. "Your bow is like your martial arts," the master said. "It looks correct from the outside, but it has no meaning inside. Come, I will show you where you will sleep." Marcus's accommodation was a small wooden room with a simple bed, a desk, and a window that looked out over the rice fields. There was no air conditioning, no television, no telephone. The only decoration was a small statue of Buddha sitting on a shelf. "Tomorrow your training begins at 5 in the morning," Ajarn Chaiwat told Marcus. "Tonight you rest and think about why you are here." After the master left, Marcus unpacked his suitcases and sat on his bed looking out the window. He could see stars in the sky more clearly than he had ever seen them in Seattle. The air was filled with the sounds of nighttime creatures in the rice fields. Everything was completely foreign to him. Marcus woke up before his alarm clock the next morning. He put on shorts and a t-shirt, expecting to begin with physical training like he was used to. But when he met Ajarn Chaiwat outside, the master shook his head. "First, you learn to sit," the master said, leading Marcus to a covered area with several cushions on the floor. "Before you can control your body in fighting, you must learn to control your mind in stillness." Marcus spent the next 2 hours trying to sit still and meditate. It was much harder than any physical training he had ever done. His back hurt, his legs fell asleep, and his mind kept wandering to thoughts about home, his closed school, and his uncertain future. Every time Marcus fidgeted or opened his eyes, Ajarn Chaiwat would tap a small bell and remind him to return his attention to his breathing. By the end of the 2 hours, Marcus was frustrated and uncomfortable, but the master seemed pleased. "Good," Ajarn Chaiwat said. "You begin to see how little control you actually have. This is the first step toward real strength." After meditation came breakfast, which was rice, vegetables, and tea. The food was simple but tasty. Marcus ate with Ajarn Chaiwat and 2 other students, young Thai men who were training to become instructors themselves. The physical training that followed was unlike anything Marcus had experienced. Instead of learning new fighting techniques, Ajarn Chaiwat had Marcus practice very basic movements over and over. Simple punches, basic kicks, and fundamental stances that Marcus thought he had mastered years ago. But the master corrected everything. Marcus's stance was too wide, then too narrow. His punches were too tense, then too loose. His kicks were too fast, then too slow. Nothing Marcus did seemed to meet the master's standards. "You have trained your body to move in certain ways," Ajarn Chaiwat explained. "But those ways are based on ego and competition. Now you must unlearn these bad habits and learn to move with purpose and control." The afternoon brought lessons in Thai culture and language. Marcus learned basic phrases and tried to understand the social customs that governed daily life in Thailand. He learned about the importance of showing respect to elders, about the proper way to interact with Buddhist monks, and about the deep connection between martial arts and spiritual development. One of the most important lessons was about the concept of face and the idea that a person's reputation and honor were among their most valuable possessions. Marcus began to understand why his kick at the festival had been seen as such a serious offense. By causing Captain Somchai to lose face in public, Marcus had attacked something more precious than physical property. The evenings were spent in discussion and reflection. Ajarn Chaiwat would ask Marcus questions about his training, his motivations, and his understanding of martial arts. These conversations were often frustrating for Marcus because the master rarely gave direct answers to his questions. "Why did you begin learning martial arts?" the master asked one evening. Marcus explained about being picked on in school and wanting to become strong enough to defend himself. "So martial arts was a weapon for you," Ajarn Chaiwat observed. "A tool to make others afraid of you." Marcus had never thought about it that way before, but he realized it was partially true. His martial arts training had given him confidence, but it had also made him feel superior to others. True martial arts is not about making others afraid. The 3rd month of Marcus's training in Thailand marked a turning point in his understanding of martial arts and himself. By this time, he had developed calluses on his feet from practicing basic kicks on wooden posts hundreds of times each day. His hands were rough from conditioning exercises that Ajahn Chaiwat insisted were necessary before learning proper punching techniques. Marcus had lost 15 pounds since arriving in Thailand. The simple diet of rice, vegetables, and occasional fish, combined with 6 hours of daily physical training, had changed his body in ways that surprised him. He was leaner but somehow felt stronger than ever before. More importantly, his mind felt clearer and more focused. The meditation sessions that had seemed impossible during his first week were now the part of each day that Marcus looked forward to most. He had learned to sit still for 2 hours without discomfort, and during these quiet times, he began to understand thoughts and feelings that he had never paid attention to before. One morning during meditation, Marcus realized that he had spent most of his adult life being angry. He had been angry at students who did not learn fast enough, angry at competitors who challenged his reputation, angry at anyone who suggested that his way of doing things might not be perfect. This constant anger had been like a poison inside him, making him quick to fight and slow to listen. Anger is like holding a hot coal in your hand and waiting for someone else to get burned, Ajahn Chaiwat told him when Marcus shared this realization. The only person hurt by your anger is yourself. The physical training had evolved far beyond what Marcus had expected. Instead of learning flashy new techniques, he spent most of his time perfecting movements that seemed almost boringly simple. A basic straight punch took weeks to learn properly. A simple front kick required months of practice to perform with what Ajahn Chaiwat called correct intention. In American martial arts, you learn many techniques quickly, the master explained one afternoon as Marcus practiced the same kick for the 1,000th time. You collect techniques like toys. But here we perfect one technique completely before moving to the next. One perfect technique is worth more than 100 sloppy ones. Marcus was also learning Muay Thai, the traditional fighting art of Thailand. But this was very different from the aggressive, competitive style he had seen in movies and television. Ajahn Chaiwat taught Muay Thai as a meditation in motion, where every strike, block, and step was performed with complete awareness and control. The elbow and knee techniques of Muay Thai were particularly challenging for Marcus to learn. In Taekwondo, he had focused almost entirely on kicks and punches. Learning to use his elbows and knees effectively required him to fight at much closer range than he was comfortable with. This close-range fighting demanded a different kind of courage, the willingness to be vulnerable while still maintaining perfect technique. Distance fighting is for people who are afraid, Ajahn Chaiwat observed as Marcus struggled with a close-range combination. When you stay far away, you think you are safe, but you are also disconnected from your opponent. Real martial arts happens when you can maintain your center, even when someone is close enough to hurt you. The cultural lessons were just as challenging as the physical training. Marcus was learning to read and write basic Thai script, which helped him understand how differently Thai people organize their thoughts compared to English speakers. The Thai language had different words for you, depending on the age and social status of the person being addressed. This taught Marcus that respect and hierarchy were built into the very structure of how Thai people communicated. Marcus also spent time each week at the local Buddhist temple, learning about the religious and philosophical foundations of Thai culture. The monks at the temple were patient teachers who helped Marcus understand concepts like karma, compassion, and the impermanence of all things. One of the most difficult lessons for Marcus to accept was the Buddhist teaching that all suffering comes from attachment and desire. Marcus had spent his entire adult life being attached to his reputation as a martial artist and his desire to be recognized as superior to others. Learning to let go of these attachments felt like giving up everything that made him who he was. You think that without your pride, you will be nothing, one of the monks told Marcus during a particularly difficult discussion, but pride is not strength. It is fear dressed up to look like strength. When you no longer need to prove you are better than others, you will discover who you really are. The 4th month brought a new challenge when Captain Somchai came to visit the training camp. Marcus had not seen him since the hospital meeting in Seattle, and he was nervous about how the captain would react to his progress. Captain Somchai watched Marcus go through his morning training routine without comment. He observed the meditation session, the language lesson, and the afternoon sparring practice. That evening, he sat with Marcus and Ajahn Chaiwat for dinner. Your technique is much improved, Captain Somchai said to Marcus. But more importantly, your attitude is different. You move with more peace now, less anger. Marcus felt proud of this recognition, but then caught himself feeling proud and realized that this too was something he needed to let go of. The old Marcus would have been satisfied with this compliment and stopped trying to improve. The new Marcus understood that real growth required constant humility and effort. Captain Somchai spent 3 days at the camp, training alongside Marcus and sharing stories about his own martial arts journey. Marcus learned that the captain had also struggled with pride and aggression when he was younger. His transformation into a protector of the royal family had required many years of discipline and spiritual development. "When I was your age," Captain Somchai told Marcus, "I thought fighting was about defeating enemies. Now I understand that the highest level of martial arts is never having to fight at all. The strongest person is the one who can remain calm and compassionate even when others are angry and violent." During the 5th month, Ayarn Chaiwat began testing Marcus in ways that pushed him far beyond his comfort zone. One exercise involved being attacked by multiple opponents while trying to remain completely calm and defensive. Marcus was not allowed to counterattack. His only goal was to avoid being hit while maintaining a peaceful mindset. This exercise was incredibly frustrating at first. Marcus's instincts told him to fight back aggressively, but every time he did, Ayarn Chaiwat would stop the exercise and make him start over. Gradually, Marcus learned to move like water, flowing around attacks without meeting force with force. "This is the highest level of martial arts," Ayarn Chaiwat explained, "to be so skilled that you can defend yourself without harming others. This requires more courage and more skill than simply hitting people." Marcus also began teaching basic techniques to some of the newer students at the camp. This teaching experience showed him how much he had changed over the past 5 months. Where he once would have been impatient with students who learned slowly, he now found himself naturally encouraging and supportive. One young student reminded Marcus of himself when he had first started training, eager to learn but also eager to prove himself through fighting. Marcus worked patiently with this student, teaching him that real strength came from self-control rather than the ability to hurt others. "Teaching is the best way to truly learn something," Ayarn Chaiwat observed as he watched Marcus work with the young student. "When you must explain something to another person, you discover whether you really understand it yourself." As the 6th month approached, Marcus began to think about returning to Seattle and reopening his martial arts school. But he realized that everything would have to be different. He could not go back to teaching the same way he had before, focusing only on winning competitions and proving superiority over other martial arts styles. Marcus began developing a new curriculum that would combine the technical skills of Taekwondo with the philosophical foundations he had learned in Thailand. His students would learn meditation alongside fighting techniques. They would study respect and humility as intensively as they studied kicks and punches. "What will you do when you return home?" Ayarn Chaiwat asked Marcus during one of their evening conversations. "I want to teach martial arts the right way," Marcus replied. "I want to help my students become better people, not just better fighters." The master nodded approvingly. "That is the purpose of all true martial arts teaching. But remember, you can only teach what you truly embody. Your students will learn more from watching how you live than from listening to what you say." On Marcus's last day at the training camp, Ayarn Chaiwat presented him with a simple brown belt to wear with his white uniform. In Thailand, brown was the color worn by teachers who had learned humility along with technique. "This belt represents your real rank," the master explained. "Not how many people you can defeat, but how many people you can help become their best selves." Captain Somchai came to escort Marcus back to Bangkok for his flight home. As they drove through the Thai countryside one last time, Marcus reflected on everything that had changed in 6 months. "Do you think the people in Seattle will accept the new version of you?" Captain Somchai asked. Marcus considered this question carefully. The flight from Bangkok to Seattle felt much longer than the journey 6 months earlier, but for different reasons. Marcus was not anxious or afraid this time. Instead, he spent the long hours thinking about how he would rebuild his life and his martial arts school with everything he had learned in Thailand. When Marcus's plane landed at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, he was surprised to see a small group of people waiting for him. His lawyer Sarah Kim was there, along with 3 of his former students and Dr. Prasert Sukhumvit from the Thai consulate. "Welcome home, Marcus," Sarah said, shaking his hand warmly. "You look different, more peaceful somehow." Marcus smiled. I feel different. 6 months in Thailand changes a person in ways I never expected. Dr. Sukhumvit approached Marcus with a formal envelope. Mr. Chen, I am pleased to inform you that the Thai government has officially dropped all charges against you. Captain Samchai's report on your training and cultural education was very positive. The incident at the festival is now considered closed. Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he had been carrying for months. He was finally free from the legal consequences of that terrible day at the International Cultural Festival. The drive back to his apartment above the martial arts school was emotional for Marcus. Seattle looked the same as when he had left, but he saw everything with new eyes. The busy streets, the tall buildings, the people rushing around. It all seemed frantic and stressful compared to the peaceful rice fields of rural Thailand. Marcus's apartment had been cleaned and maintained by one of his former students, but it felt strange and unfamiliar after 6 months away. The furniture was the same, the pictures on the walls were the same, but Marcus himself was so different that everything seemed like it belonged to someone else. That first night back in Seattle, Marcus sat in meditation for 2 hours, just as he had done every morning and evening in Thailand. The sounds of traffic and city life outside his window were very different from the peaceful sounds of rice fields and jungle birds. But Marcus found that he could maintain the same inner calm that Ajahn Chaiwat had taught him to cultivate. The next morning, Marcus went downstairs to look at his martial arts school. The space had been empty for 6 months and it felt hollow and lifeless. Dust covered the mirrors and training equipment. The wooden floors that had once been polished to a shine were now dull and scuffed. But as Marcus walked through the empty school, he began to envision what it could become. Instead of the aggressive, competitive atmosphere he had created before, he imagined a place where students could learn not just fighting techniques, but also meditation, respect, and self-discipline. He pictured students bowing properly to each other, helping younger students and approaching their training with humility and dedication. Marcus spent the next 2 weeks cleaning and renovating his school. He rearranged the space to include a meditation area with cushions and a small shrine, similar to what he had used in Thailand. He hung new signs on the walls with quotes about honor, respect, and self-improvement, instead of the competition trophies and aggressive slogans that had been there before. The most significant change was a new sign that Marcus painted carefully and hung above the entrance to the training area. It read, "A true warrior's greatest victory is victory over himself." When Marcus was ready to reopen his school, he sent letters to all of his former students explaining what had happened and inviting them to return if they were interested in a new approach to martial arts training. He was honest about his mistakes and about how much he had learned during his time in Thailand. Some of his former students were skeptical. They had enjoyed the competitive, aggressive style of training that Marcus had offered before. A few of them decided to find other schools that focused more on winning tournaments and less on philosophy and meditation. But many students were curious about what Marcus had learned and eager to try this new approach. They could see immediately that something fundamental had changed in their teacher. Marcus moved with the same technical skill as before, but there was a calmness and centeredness about him that had not been there 6 months earlier. The first classes in the reopened school were small, only 8 students, instead of the 30 that Marcus had taught before his trip to Thailand. But the quality of instruction was deeper and more meaningful than anything Marcus had ever provided. Each class began with 10 minutes of meditation, something that would have been impossible in the old school. Marcus taught his students to focus on their breathing and to approach their training with mindfulness and intention. Some students struggled with this at first, but gradually they began to appreciate how meditation improved their focus and control during physical practice. The technical training was also different. Instead of learning many techniques quickly, students spent weeks perfecting basic movements. Marcus emphasized precision, control, and proper intention over speed and power. He taught them that a technique performed with perfect awareness was more valuable than 10 techniques performed carelessly. Marcus also integrated lessons about respect, humility, and cultural awareness into every class. He shared stories from his time in Thailand and taught his students about different martial arts traditions from around the world. Most importantly, he helped them understand that martial arts training was about becoming better people, not just better fighters. One of Marcus's most important innovations was a monthly cultural exchange program. He invited instructors from other martial arts schools to visit and share their techniques and philosophies. Students could learn about karate from Japanese instructors, kung fu from Chinese masters, and capoeira from Brazilian teachers. This program was completely different from the competitive mindset Marcus had promoted before his trip to Thailand. Instead of trying to prove that Taekwondo was superior to other martial arts, Marcus now encouraged his students to appreciate the wisdom and beauty in all fighting traditions. 3 months after reopening his school, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. Captain Somchai had come to Seattle on official business with the Thai consulate, and he asked if he could visit Marcus's school to see how the American was applying his lessons from Thailand. Marcus was nervous about this visit, but also excited to show Captain Somchai what he had accomplished. The captain arrived during an evening class and sat quietly in the back of the room, observing everything that happened. He watched as Marcus led the students through their opening meditation. He observed the respectful way students interacted with each other and with their instructor. He saw how Marcus corrected techniques with patience and encouragement, instead of criticism and frustration. After class, Captain Somchai spoke with Marcus privately. "This is very good," the captain said with obvious approval. "You have truly learned what Ajahn Chaiwat tried to teach you. Your students are learning martial arts the right way, as a path to self-improvement and respect for others." Marcus felt proud of this recognition, but he also remembered the lessons about letting go of pride. "I still have much to learn," he said honestly. "Every day I discover new ways to be a better teacher and a better person." Captain Somchai smiled. "That attitude is exactly what makes you a good teacher now. The person who thinks he knows everything has stopped learning." The captain then made an offer that surprised Marcus. "I would like to become a regular visiting instructor at your school. I could teach traditional Muay Thai and share more about Thai culture with your students. Would you be interested in this partnership?" Marcus was honored by this proposal. Having Captain Somchai as a regular instructor would give his students access to authentic Thai martial arts and would strengthen the cultural exchange program he was trying to build. The partnership with Captain Somchai proved to be transformational for Marcus's school. Students were fascinated by the opportunity to learn from a real Royal Thai Guard. They practiced traditional Muay Thai techniques, learned about Thai history and culture, and gained a deeper appreciation for the philosophical foundations of martial arts. More importantly, the partnership served as a powerful example of how conflict could be transformed into cooperation. Students learned the full story of what had happened at the International Cultural Festival, and how both Marcus and Captain Somchai had chosen forgiveness and learning over anger and revenge. 1 year after returning from Thailand, Marcus held a special ceremony at his school. He invited all of his students, their families, and members of the local Thai community to attend. Captain Somchai was the guest of honor, and Dr. Sukhumvit from the Thai consulate also attended. During the ceremony, Marcus publicly apologized for his actions at the cultural festival. He explained how his pride and ignorance had led to a moment that could have damaged relations between cultures and countries. But he also spoke about how that terrible mistake had become the beginning of the most important learning experience of his life. "I used to think that being a martial artist meant being able to defeat other people," Marcus told the gathered crowd. "Now I understand that being a martial artist means being able to defeat your own worst impulses, your pride, your anger, your desire to prove yourself superior to others." Marcus then presented Captain Somchai with a special plaque recognizing him as an honorary instructor at the school.